I mentioned a few times this week on the podcast how much the death of Trevor Moore had just been bothering me, sticking with me for some reason. The other night, I decided to go on YouTube and I went to the Whitest Kids U Know channel and I just started watching random sketches, and man, they are all funny. Salon did a great article. It's called The Whitest Kids U Know, a cult classic comedy group whose sketches eerily foresaw the Trump era. Salon spoke to each member of the group, including Trevor Moore. This is back in 2020, and they broke down 7 sketches that have proven to be relevant in the current world, or at least the 2020 Trump version. One of the sketches, Presidential Props from 2009. An idealistic senator at a presidential debate intent on discussing issues like fighting poverty and ending America's latest war. Then the sketch takes a turn for the absurd when the other candidates begin using props to distract each other as well as win over the crowd with cheap entertainment. Zach Kreger said, "I don't think we knew that we were on this trajectory. Both the sketch and another one that we'll talk about in a second are about the tendency of American culture to blend entertainment into its politics, and I think 2016 was sort of the logical outcome of that sort of innate desire in all of us. It sucks, because then you end up with an effing moron reality star as your president." Whitest kid Timmy Williams added, "President Trump is a symptom of the disease, not the start of it, so I think that those things were already there when we made the sketches, our tendencies toward worshiping celebrities and distracting ourselves with shiny objects, and it's only gotten worse." Sam Brown said, "As a comedian, you don't hold a mirror up to society, you hold a funhouse mirror up to society. As someone looking into a funhouse mirror could look and be like, oh, this is what it would look like if I was super overweight in this part of my body. All the negative stuff was there. We just happen to be living in that part of history where we're fat." In 2007, there's a sketch called It's Illegal to Say. Now, I don't want to get in trouble because it is illegal to say about doing a really, really bad thing to a really, really famous person who heads up a major country in which you probably live. You hear me? I don't need a visit from any agencies. So in the It's Illegal to Say sketch from 2007, Salon writes, "Stylistically, this is one of the group's simpler sketches. It shows Trevor Moore sitting on a stool in front of a generic backdrop explaining how it's illegal to say, doing the bad thing to the powerful person. Of course, Trevor Moore then proceeds to continue saying it, finding progressively more elaborate phrasings that even he admits are extremely illegal and ridiculously horribly felonious, and adding, they will come to your house in the middle of the night and they will lock you up if you utter them. Yeah, I'm a coward. I'm not doing that." Trevor said, "As far as making a big splash, I don't think you can beat going to the Supreme Court." Told you about this the other day. He was referring to the case of Alonis versus the United States, in which a man named Anthony Douglas Alonis took Trevor Moore's monologue into a diatribe against the guy's wife, and he made other online posts that he characterized as art. He was eventually convicted on multiple counts of making threats, but Chief Justice John G. Roberts explained in the opinion of the court that they did not prove a state of a guilty mind required for convictions in certain types of crimes. Trevor said, "We didn't realize the sketch had gone to the Supreme Court until somebody called me and they're like, they're playing your sketch on the nightly news." Trevor found it hilarious because it means all the Supreme Court justices had to watch our stupid sketch, even Ruth Bader Ginsburg. There's an irony to it that the sketch itself was about how there's laws against making threats against that person, when we don't actually know that person in the powerful job in the place where you probably live. And here's a way that we're going to express this anger, this broad angst. And then someone took what we did and used it in a way where, no, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't be allowed to threaten someone you actually know and can actually harm. Next sketch from 2008, Be a Cop. In this faux recruitment commercial for joining the police, the running gag is that all the cops featured in it are shown firing their guns without any good cause. It concludes with a disturbingly accurate statement about the psychology that motivates many police officers. Law enforcement offers it all: comfortable wages, an exciting work environment, and a false sense of superiority. So join the police force to serve, protect, and to control the poor. Williams said, "We were kids when that Rodney King thing happened, So it was something we thought that everybody agreed, like, that's effed up, Kreger said, "I think it's kind of a bizarre place where we've gotten to where that kind of sketch comes through this new light." Be a Cop is not their only sketch to discuss racism in American law enforcement. During their last season, the Whitest Kids made a sketch series called The Civil War on Drugs about 2 potheads in the 1860s who mistakenly believed that the Civil War is about banning marijuana. Later cobbled together as a movie, it included a number of references to the horrors of racism and slavery, subversively identifying how the oppression of racial minorities associated with the former conflict still exists, albeit in a different form, in today's war on drugs. From 2009, Backseat tells the story of 2 kids who start pulling pranks from the backseat of their school bus while the driver becomes increasingly suspicious. While he tolerates them throwing firecrackers and food out the window, He draws the line and starts yelling at them when they pivot to discussing how socialism is preferable to capitalism. Trevor Moore's character said, "It's kind of just like being really nice and fair. If you think about it, socialism is like everybody helping everybody else out, and capitalism is like greed." The discussion continues. Trevor Moore's character says, "The only reason capitalism works is because it plays on man's biggest flaw." Trevor, in real life, said, "I think it was a pretty hard critique of capitalism. I don't think there was a whole lot to read between the lines of that. I don't want to sound like a pink." Moore said, "They've covered many points of view, and if you look at them all together, we just kind of attack any angle we think is funny." 2007, Point Counterpoint. In one of their most pointed sketches, Point Counterpoint stars Trevor Moore as an extreme right-wing fireworms advocate.
"Hey, it's me. I'm out on the deck. I'm editing a show. Did you hear that? I said fireworms. What the hell are fireworms?" He's a firearms advocate. We now resume the podcast, already in progress.
Despite a talk show host's attempts to have a rational conversation, the advocate becomes increasingly unhinged as he tries to justify his positions. First, he argues that hunters need handguns to hunt a hypothetical buck in an abandoned warehouse and factories, so he won't be messing around with your daughter anymore and filling her head with ridiculous ideas and corrupting her character. Then the advocate argues that Kevlar-piercing bullets should be legal in case punk kids strap a bulletproof vest onto a bear, which would lead to the invincible bears running around raping your churches, burning your women. And it goes on like that. Williams told Salon it's making fun of the mass shootings that are perpetrated by people who believe all kinds of that crazy stuff. The dude in the sketch thinks there's people coming for you and they're going to do all this stuff, and that's why we need guns, you know? From 2007, Scaring Babies. After Trevor Moore sneaks into a baby's bedroom, he proceeds to scare it by explaining how the baby will inherit a world in which college tuition will be unaffordable and global warming will severely damage the entire planet's ecosystem. It's a brilliant, simple, and effective idea, traumatizing the young by merely letting them know that we left a terrible world behind for them. Brown said, "It's a common theme we had in our show. There was a lot of resentment, especially at that time, that we had about the world that our parents were leaving us, and I think it kind of rings throughout the show in a lot of different ways." And from Vulture, Anne Victoria Clark writes, remembering Trevor Moore through some of his funniest work. Anne writes, "A collection of Moore's work to get you started if you aren't familiar, and if you are, consider this a celebration of a guy whose influence on elder millennial comedy nerds can't be overstated." Again, go on the YouTube page, Whitest Kids U Know. All these are up there. You can watch complete episodes. I think you will really enjoy yourself if you missed this the first time around. All right, Anne's sketches. One is Timmy Poops His Pants. The Whitest Kids are masters of a poop joke. And this is a sketch that wouldn't work if not for Trevor Moore's ability to fully command a room of screaming men. No one else could sell the reality of a boss slapping the table during a meeting while demanding the attendees of said meeting forget about the poop. The sketch Lincoln, alternative history, is an inescapable recurring theme in Trevor Moore's work. This sketch insists that the real story of Abraham Lincoln's death involves him interrupting a vampire version of Hamlet to the point that an audience member decides to simply beat him in the butt with a hammer. How about Supersize Me with Whiskey? It's like Supersize Me, but different. The sketch asks whether it's healthy to drink whiskey for every meal, every day, for 30 years, no matter how much the people around you and the whiskey company beg you not to. And includes Scaring Babies, and includes I want to do bad thing to the person who's really powerful in the country in which you live. Hunting accidents. On paper, there's no reason for the first line of the sketch to be funny, which is, "Bob, that was definitely not a deer." It's mere exposition, but the secret weapon of most of the Whitest Kids' best sketches was Trevor Moore's existence. He could make you laugh with one facial expression, or in the case of Hunting Accident, with every single line of dialogue his character has. In Race War, Trevor Moore plays a character trying to get his friend to join him in starting a race war as though it's a pickup baseball game, only to wind up arguing with his friend over whether his Italian girlfriend can be considered white. If you want to get academic about it, it's a sketch that examines how violently arbitrary the definition of whiteness is for the purposes of racism and nationalism. It also features Trevor Moore making a surprised face that even in low resolution is wildly funny. Gallon of PCP is a classic. A sketch that's basically just about Moore's facial reactions. Point Counterpoint, we talked about. Tattoo Parlor. Trevor Moore plays a man who's very excited to get a tattoo he's given some thought to for the past 16 years. Happier and With Your Mouth Open. This sketch heavily relies on Trevor's ability to do what the title says. Say his lines happier and with his mouth open. Be a Cop, we talked about. The Raddest Kid Ever tells the story of a kid who has accidentally gotten hold of a gun. Sniper Business. Trevor plays a corporate titan engaging in acts of very real war with a competitor who's hired a sniper to take him out. Loading a rocket launcher while on call isn't something they teach in any kind of performing arts school. It's just something Trevor Moore was hilariously good at. It's business, plain and simple. Bad Panda. Here is Terry Milo. Trevor offers to help a zoo keep the animals in line by beating them up, showing a wide-eyed enthusiasm that makes us believe he could actually do it. Grapist. Trevor Moore as an ad man pitching his version of a Kool-Aid Man-esque character who grapes kids in the mouth and has no idea why anybody would have a problem with that. Maroon President. Trevor Moore plays the president's press secretary, and he breaks our hearts when he finds out a new color they were excited to reveal already exists. Sex Robot. I love Sex Robot. I have watched Sex Robot about 7 times now this week since Trevor passed away. I made my wife watch it. I walk around the house going, sex robot, sex robot. I can't stop. I do the sex robot dance. Watch the sketch. It's so silly, but it cracks me up. At a roundtable discussion of the sketch in 2020, the members revealed the sex robot costume went on to live a very full life, even doing the polar bear plunge on the front page of the New York Times years later. That's so awesome. Oh boy, sex robot. Butterbar. And sounds like me here. She writes, I don't have a super thought out opinion on Butterbar. It's just I think about Butterbar a lot. Okay. And how about the Trevor Moore show? Right up until the hours before his death, Trevor Moore was making comedy through live streams on Twitch and a Comedy Central digital show. He and the other members of Whitest Kids continue to entertain fans through quarantine. Zach Kreger and Sam Brown said on their website, our hope is that friends, fellow artists, and fans that loved him will not focus on his death, but will remember the countless moments of laughter he gave them. Moore was and remains the center of his own comedic universe full of friends. For fans, the magic of his work will continue to be his ability to make us feel as if we were friends too, and that we're always welcome to come hang out. That is your comedy news for today. Follow this show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Treat yourself. YouTube at Whitest Kids You Know. See you tomorrow.